Republicans are against the president's budget, but are they unified in their position? Let's ask Republican Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio. Good to see you again, Jim. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Be with you, David.
I hope you don't mind first name, but you're too young to be called Mr. Congressman. I can't believe that somebody your age could be a congressman.
I got 2 in college, David, so I'm a little older than you might think.
All right. You just look young. So we wonder about whether the Republicans are going to be unified. We know that in the House they were unified against the stimulus, although in the Senate there were a couple of breakaways. What's the situation now with the budget?
No, look, we're going to be unified because this budget is bad for American families, bad for taxpayers, bad for small business owners out there. And you're right to talk about the Democrats and the trouble the president is having with the Democrats, because with this bill, unlike the so-called stimulus bill, we're actually getting to debate it, to discuss it, and read the bill, which we didn't get with the stimulus bill. So the more Democrats read it, you got people like Senator Conrad, the chairman of the Budget Committee in the Senate, saying we need to exercise a little fiscal discipline here, not spend and run up these kind of deficits and double the national debt over the next 6 years. So our side is going to be unified, certainly. The problem is with the Democrats, and our job is to point out where this takes us. And think about this, David. In the midst of a recession, this budget's going to do 4 things, any one of which is bad any time. To do one during a recession is even worse, but to attempt all 4 during a recession is crazy. They're going to raise taxes. They're going to continue to spend at unprecedented levels, racking up debt for future generations of Americans. They're going to further nationalize health care, taking away freedoms and opportunities for families and individuals to make health care decisions. And the worst is the cap and trade in this system, which will tax every single American. Higher energy, it'll be the worst tax in history, the highest tax in history. Every single American family is going to pay more. Our businesses are going to pay more. And we're going to put this on the American economy during a recession when our emerging competitors in India and China aren't going to impose it on themselves.
Well, the interesting thing, Congressman, is that
during a recession.
I understand. Given the fact that Democrats control Congress and the executive, though, you're beginning to hear a little more free talk than you have in the past. Barney Frank, for example, a guy who's always couched his appreciation for universal health care with saying, of course, I like the private sector, et cetera. He now is saying stuff far more radical. He's saying that I want everybody to have the same kind of coverage that Medicare has. In other words, he wants a universal health care system, essentially a socialized health care system.
Right, exactly. With the power these guys have and the majorities they have now, the American people are beginning to see where they want to take this country. And that's why you're seeing these taxpayer tea parties around the country. We had 5,000 people, David, show up in Cincinnati, Ohio on the first nice spring Sunday afternoon of the year in Ohio. 5,000 people went out on a Sunday afternoon to say, enough is enough. We do not want to take our country in this direction. So the more Americans can find out about what's in this budget, what the plans are, people like Barney Frank and Nancy Pelosi, the more they side with us and say, wait a minute, let's focus on doing those things we know work, cutting taxes for small business owners, letting families keep more of their money, things we know grow your economy and foster and create jobs. That's where we need to focus, not this budget. And, your show is the scoreboard. Right now, I'm in Budget Committee, just stepped out for this. When we go back right now the score is big government's winning and families and taxpayers are losing because they're pushing the Obama budget. We've got to try to stop it and keep taking our message to the American people.
But Congressman, credibility. Let's talk credibility for a second, because it's not just Democrats people are fed up with. They're fed up with Republicans as well. We had the huge spending of the Bush era. We had the beginning of the TARP plan, where we've been bailing out by hundreds of billions of dollars some rich hedge funds overseas. So how do you regain that stance of credibility that during the Reagan administration Republicans had for fiscal responsibility? They don't have it anymore.
Look, you're exactly right. Republicans spent too much. I fought it when I was here for the last 2 years of the Bush years. We spent too much money. It takes time. I tell folks all the time, the Republican Party is like the nation of Israel that we read about in the Old Testament. We get it right for a while, then we mess up, we go out in the wilderness, and it takes us some time, we get it right, we get back in power. That's what we got to do. It just takes some time, but as long as we continue...
who's the Moses that's going to lead them out of the wilderness?
We have several, and I'd like to think that John Boehner and Eric Cantor and our team are helping us tremendously by
Wait a minute. John Boehner, the guy who was as head of appropriation, would not put a anti-porker in when that seat opened up on appropriations. You're not telling me that a guy who put a porker in that seat when Jeff Flake, a guy who's anti-pork, had a chance to get in. I mean, come on. I don't trust John Boehner to do the right thing there.
Well, recognize this, though. It's the same John Boehner who helped unify us when we all opposed this stimulus package. So again, it's going to take some time. We're going to get our credibility back, and we're going to focus on the things that American families care about. Keeping more of their money, not putting this cap and trade on them, not spending our kids and our grandkids' future, mortgaging their future. We're going to do the things that make sense. When we do that, it will take some time, but we will earn back the credibility that we've lost and be able to do the right things for American taxpayers.
I don't know. I think that the fury at what's going on inside Wall Street and the Beltway is universal towards both parties, and there's got to be something different. I don't know whether it's a new party. I know those things very rarely fly, but there has to be some dramatic break from the past.
It's got to be elected officials who actually do what they told the voters they were going to do when they ran for the job. It's simply about keeping your word, and that's what I've tried to do with our vote. That's why I came and opposed the TARP, opposed every single bailout, even though the district I represent is huge in automotive. Opposed the auto bailout, because once you start down this road, it's tough to turn around, and it's a road that takes our kids and our future in the wrong direction. That's why I've opposed it, and the voters back home know where I stood before I got the job, and they're glad that I'm keeping my word.
No, you've been consistent on it, I got to say. Representative Jim Jordan, great to see you again. Thanks very much for being here. Appreciate it. Let's bring in our panel now. Evelyn Russley of Forbes.com.